Hey JPM, I have always appreciated your 3D printable Pixelblaze stuff like your mounts and whatnot. So I thought that I would make this video for you showing how I might think through doing a color wipe across the strip. So we'll do it on paper and then we'll live code it together. And I will edit myself to make it look like I'm an awesome fast coder. All right, so when I think about an animation that's going to go across the strip, I always start by thinking about which waveforms we have available to us in the Pixelblaze built-ins. So we have time. So whenever we use the time function, we're going to get a waveform out that looks like that. We have a couple other ones that are going to be useful here. This is square wave. You get to do the duty cycle, so that's a 50% roughly duty cycle, or you can tell it to do a shorter duty cycle. And like everything in Pixelblaze, these are just going 0 to 1. New Sharpie. Okay, so then we've got, let's see here, wave. So that's square. We got wave, which is our helpful sine wave. And we have the actually quite useful triangle. Okay, so what you said is that you want to do two colors. And so I think our choices here that pop off the page to me are going to be the square wave, where we could make it like blue if a value of a thing over time and space. Yeah, that's the thing. These things are going to be both time or they're going to be space. And when there's space, we usually do it as a fraction of the total pixels. So that's when you see a bunch of this index over pixel count stuff. We'll be using both of those. So yeah, you talked about 100 pixels of blue and then 100 pixels white or something. So maybe we do something like this. And if we set everything up right, this can be 100 pixels or it can be for a second or whatever, and we can go back and forth and back and forth. That's one way. Um, so that's really simple, and maybe we'll do it that way first, but then I think I'd like to teach you how to instead also go up to this wave, the time wave, which is just the basic sawtooth. And the reason that's useful is because if we pick different thresholds, we can do any number of colors we want, and we could put darkness in between our stuff. And so I'm going to start over. We will first do it the easy way with the square wave for just two colors, but then I'll do the extended approach. And the extended approach, why that's useful, is that we get to scale how long stuff is like this by what we put inside of the argument to time. So there'll be like some number of seconds there. And if we make a bigger number, then these get longer in time. Uh, so let's say that we wanted to pick it such that 1/4 of our total time is going to be blue. And I'm going to use the high values for that. So I could use this to go like 0.75, and I know that this is also 0.75 in this wave. And so I can just say I want this to be the blue region. And the wave, we're going to make it move to the right, which means that we're going to be using wave function offsets that are going to minus time. Something over here about the position, and then we're going to minus time, that's going to move it to the right. So as I think about a fixed point on my strip, and the wave is moving this way, first the blue region is going to come through. And let's say another 25%, I want to be the white region. So the wave moves to the right, and then the white section will be there. Maybe we'll have some code that says, hey, if the value is between 0.5 to 0.75, we want it to be white. And then we could say I'd like a gap between things, so we'll make this one dark too. We'll do an iteration second where this is off. And the reason this is interesting is because for blue, we got to work with hue. For white, we got to turn down the saturation. And for darkness, we got to turn down the value. So we will figure out a way to combine our math so that we set our hue, we set our saturation, we set our value, all dependent on this one wave's values. Um, yeah, and so, let's say that you wanted less blue compared to white, you just like move your blue region higher. And so now like your blue region is only going to be this long in time or space, and your white region is going to be relatively longer. And that's why I like this sawtooth triangle wave to set up stuff that I want to mess with, either the proportions or how much darkness there is, and then chase it again and again. Because there's another wave coming over here, and it's going to jump all the way back up to 1, and so this will repeat as the wave just continues forever over to the right. We're going to get blue, white, black, blue, white, black. All right, so that'll be part 2. All right, so I got the editor up, and we'll watch the progress up here in the preview bar as we go. So the first thing we need, almost usually, always, is we need a concept of time. I like to do my timers specified in seconds, so we'll do 2 seconds. And so this one goes from 0 to 1 every 2 seconds. In fact, let's just go ahead and look at what that looks like. Let's get a time wave going across our screen somehow. So we'll first do, I also sometimes like to do, your position in the strip or your fraction or whatever equals the index divided by the pixel count. Here I'll pause and I'll turn something into V because we always like to square V. So I'm going to say the V is the value, it's the brightness, and then down in here we usually like to do that for gamma scaling, kind of like smooth stuff out. And so that's what it, here we got our triangle wave starting at 0 and going all the way up to 1. So the first thing we will do is let's turn this into a square wave. Let's turn it into a square wave with square. And we want to tell it to do it for half of it, half on, half off. Pixels 100 makes the, okay, now the preview is 100 wide. Pixel count will be 100, so this is like half on, half off. And a cool thing you can do there is if you want to make it a little bigger, just multiply it by a number, start to see more of them. Let's see 2 square waves, on, off, or 4 square waves, on, off, etc. Cool, and notice that we can make one region versus the other a different proportion by just playing with this number, Yep. So if we wanted to make this now blue and gold, we need to have one of these sections equal, let's make the white section into blue and white, you said, right? All right, so let's keep it simple. The white sections where V equals 1, I'm going to make those white. Anything that's white is desaturated. So I got a problem. When V equals 1, I want S to equal 0. So how could I do that? Well, I can just say that, how about S equals 1 minus V? Or I could do S equals V is not equal to 1. Okay, let's try that. Well, nothing changed for our white, which is as we expected, but we wanted the rest to start to show up blue. And when we don't want any dark pattern here, we're going to keep the value 1 the whole time. Oops, but now it's red, which is 0. What's blue? Blue is 2/3 of the way through the color wheel. Okay, so now we kind of got what you wanted going on. Let's change it back to 50%. And to make it wipe, we have to make the thing move somehow. And the way we do that, if we want stuff to move to the right, with index 0 being over here, we always use a minus for a right shift. And let's just start taking time away from it. And now we've kind of got your wipe going on. Let's use our fancy UI sliders that Ben gave us and set up a slider to adjust the speed. All right, so cool. We got a decent slider now working for the speed with an export function slider and the name of your slider. Cool stuff. So now we're going to flip into mode 2, which I showed on the paper, which was using a sawtooth wave instead have a little more flexibility about how we think about the different regions, add extra colors, add sections of darkness, okay? So starting over a little bit here, um, let's first just visualize a uh, a sawtooth wave, which is, time itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to make v equals, say, just the fraction of the strip. Here's our blue going from 0 to 1 sawtooth. Um, and if we want to animate that, start that thing moving right. But let's look at a couple sawtooths. So just like last time, let's look at 3 uh, sawtooths together. Now this times 3 thing, you're like, oh, it didn't work. Well, you got to like bring it back down into the range of 0 to 1. So this modulus 1 goes, uh, position goes from 0 to 1 as a fraction of the whole strip, but then we made it go from 0 to 3. But by doing the remainder when we divide by 1, now it goes from 0 to 1, and normally it would have gone from 1 to 2, but now it's going from 0 to 1 again, etc. Okay, cool. So the next thing we could do is let's get it animating again. Let's move it across the screen. So here, it's doing that, but let's put some parentheses, get the right order of operations. Cool. But there's this weird thing happening. What's this region here? It's the modulus operator striking, and it's actually the remainder operator. Okay. The fix to this thing is that what's happening is it's encountering some spots where the position is low, like maybe 0.1% into the strip. So this is a really low number, close to 0. If the T1, the timer, has gotten all the way up to 1, well, now we have a number inside of here that's like -1, which is right there, right there. To fix it, you can add this is like a cheap and dirty hack. You can like add an offset of 1. So now it's always positive, at least. Because this can go from 0 to 3, and this can go from 0 to 1. Okay, great. So now you see up at the top, we got 3 triangle waves on screen at any time, moving across to the right. So now we've got to start making these regions of the triangle wave into what we want. And I think I said in my diagram that we want it to only be blue if actually, let's do the darkness first. We want it to only be pure dark if this V value here is less than half. So the first thing we can do there is that we can say that we only want it to be on if V is greater than half. Okay, so this is the 0 to 1, and the blue region now we're going to divide into our 2 sections. We said that we wanted V to be the top part over here, so that's already set up correctly, but how do we turn this middle region white? We need to do something with the saturation. We need to take the saturation back down to 0. So we'll get rid of this line, which hasn't been serving us a little bit. And how about we say that the saturation, let's take a note here. I want the saturation to be 0 when our little V wave that's going from 0 to 1 again and again is between half and 0.75, I think we said. So the verbose way is we could like make an S and say, I mean, we could just do this with ifs. Okay, so pretty clear, right? Well, hopefully, if V is bigger than half but less than 3/4, desaturate, no color, otherwise saturate it with 1. And so now you've got your chase. You got blue and white and some dark spots here. Um, so the nice thing about this approach, uh, I'm actually going to simplify this in cheat, and we're just going to say that this is going to be like when S is less than 0.75. There, kind of same thing. Um, oh, no, V. Yeah, there you go. All right, a little more succinct, but it's the same thing going on under the hood. So what I wanted to show you is this flexible approach. We can start saying, oh, I'd like the dark region to be very small. Okay, just change that one number. Or I'd like the blue region to be even bigger, just a tiny white head of a blue snake with some distance between the next blue snake. And so if you remember back to our diagram, just using the different regions of the wave, we can mess with our scaling, like how many waves do we want to visualize at once? 5, 9? Man, it's looking like snake. And we can make time go faster or slower up here. How about glacial or really fast? Okay, I think that about wraps it up. Thanks, JPM, for all you've contributed to the community, and hopefully this gets your mind thinking about how you could create similar progressive patterns in the future.